Okay, so let's check out perfect cubes. We're actually going to write all these out because I only want you guys to worry about 10 of them. Very helpful, very important, and you want to burn them in your brain so that you just remember them like the back of your hand. So, 1 cubed is 1 times 1 times 1. So I highly recommend you expand squares and cubes and whatnot, because especially until you get real good at it, you don't want to get too overconfident, because a lot of people would put 2 times 3, right? And myself included. It's like until you really know this stuff, until you can look at it, and it's the same as, calculating 2 plus 2. It's just that easy because you've seen it so many times. You want to expand it. You want to write it out. So 1 cubed, 2 cubed, 3 cubed. So let's say we wrote all of it out. Right? 4 cubed. So if we wrote it all out, what would it be? It would be 3 times 3 times 3. 9 times 3, 27. 4 times 3, 4 times... Sorry. I'm making the mistake verbally that I'm trying to help you guys not make in terms of your answers. Yeah, so you want to expand it, right? So it's going to be 4 times 4 times 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So 5 cubed. So in the interest of time, I'll just have you guys, try to keep this in mind, that I would recommend you expand and write it out until you're really good at it. But in the interest of time, we're going to keep it sort of truncated here and just fly through these at a relatively decent clip. This is 25 times 5, which is 125. So 5 cubed is 125. 6 cubed. This is interesting. Okay, very interesting. So 6 cubed is 36 times 6. So 6, carry the 3. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 3 is 21. So it's 216. Why is that interesting? Well, it's kind of interesting because, and here's where you want to look for patterns, especially once you've gotten to the 6s through 9, or 6 through 9. That's going to be somewhat interesting because you want to try to spot the patterns, because these are where it gets a little bit trickier, right? The other ones, especially, you see them a lot more often in your work, in your workbooks, homework tests, etc. You're going to see these a lot more. 1 cubed, 2 cubed, 3 cubed. And then 10 cubed is obviously 10 times 10 times 10, which is a 1 with the same number of zeros behind it that we got here. 1, 2, 3. So you got 1 with 3 zeros behind it. So it's going to be 1,000. Sorry about the sloppiness. It's 1,000. But now these are trickier. So now you want to look for patterns. And this is sort of another important point that I want to not gloss over, because memory is everything. It's not just about, oh, we'll just, put it in your calculator and try to remember it. You also want to put it in the calculator upstairs, in between your ears, which is your brain. So what memory hooks can you, that can help you? So let's check this out. So 6, it ends in 6. Obviously 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 ends in a 6. 36 times 6 ends in a 6, right? It's just 6 and 6 in terms of the far right digit. It's going to be 6 and 6, right? So that's going to end in a 6. And then 6 plus 1 is 7, plus 2 is 9. Well, 6 plus 3 is 9. Might seem like it's not that important, but you might remember this. Actually, can be very important. So let's do 49 times 7. Well, you might be able to do this in your head. What's 50 times 7? Okay, well, what's 5 times 7? 35. So now what's 50 times 7? Yeah, 350. Put a 0 on this and the end of it, right? So 350. So what's 350 minus 7 minus one group of 7. So 50 times 7 is 50 groups of 7. 49 times 7 is 49 groups of 7. So it's 50 groups of 7 minus one group of 7. So 350 minus 7. That ends up being 343. Why is this helpful? Well, it is helpful because we can spot some patterns here. Okay? What is it? Well, it's a mirror. It's like 3 and 4 is 7, right? And then 4 and 3 is 7. 4 is in the middle. Pretty interesting, right? So 343, plus you're going up by 1. So 8 cubed might be 4 something or 5 something. So what's 8 times 8? Yep, 64. So 64 times 8. First thing we're going to do, so you always want to look for patterns, especially when you're doing tricky stuff that you might forget. After this study session, you want to take a few seconds and figure out, how am I going to remember this stuff? 48, 51, so 5, 1, 2. So 512. I will bet you a few of you guys already spotted an interesting pattern. Well, now 2 plus 3 is 5, so if you're trying to do a list, that might help. But also, 5 plus 1 is 6 plus 2 is 8. 8. So these are all 3-digit numbers. 6 cubed, 7 cubed, 8 cubed, and 512. And so, again, it's just really helpful to try to memorize and try to, remember patterns and remember interesting traits of these solutions. So the last one's going to be 9 cubed. It's going to be 81 times 9. So what's 81 times 10? 810, yes. So what's 810 minus 81? A little bit trickier. So let's, for some people, but it's not as easy as the other stuff that we were doing. So we might have to do this. I don't even know what I'm thinking right now. I'm like subtracting. All right, so 1 times 9 is 9. I don't know what I was thinking. All right, 9 times 8 is 72. Okay, so 729. And the key really with all this stuff, and really why I don't get too miffed at myself, when making a mistake here and there, is you want to play with numbers, man. I'm sure a painter doesn't get mad if he has a good painting, then he messes it up. It's like, or she, you just paint over it, or you keep working on it. Like, if you love to paint, you're gonna paint. You're just gonna get really good at it, and you're gonna, and so it's the same thing with numbers. Don't only use numbers when you need them for school. Don't only be this pure utilitarian, this pure pragmatic when it comes to numbers, right? Be curious. I mean, Isaac Newton, I think I mentioned this before, Isaac Newton clearly had a curiosity or curiousness about calculus, about numbers, because otherwise he wouldn't have created calculus. So, it's key to be, just look around. You want to spot these patterns. Oh, interesting. 2 plus 1 is 3, 6 is 9. Oh, 6 plus 3 is 9. 3 letters, 6 is in the end, yada, yada. So 729, I know you guys know why this is interesting. It's 9 is at the end, right? And then it's 9 cubed, and then 7 plus 2 is 9. Pretty interesting, right? 7 plus 2 is 9. It's a 3-digit number, so these are all 3-digit numbers. I mean, you're going to remember this stuff, I promise you. The more you create these memory hooks, the higher the odds that you're going to remember this stuff in your short-term, medium-term, and long-term memory. And guys, memorize your cubes up to 10. I think you will be pleased as you move through math at doing so as soon as possible.